Welcome back to Triggered AF, the podcast.
That was my DJ effect.
Yeah, we need like something extra. We are back with episode 3, and I am so excited for this episode. I've been wanting to do this episode since episode 1 because I find Alechia to be like one of the most fascinating people I know. So if you watched episode 2, you know we did Hey Dani, which was a bit about me and what I do, what my life's work is about. For episode 3, we're going to do Hey Alechia. And we're going to talk about what Alechia does. I told her this, and I wanted this episode because every time one of my other friends meets Alechia or anyone that comes across her, the first thing they'll ask me behind her back is, so what does Alechia do? Like, what does she even do? Like, who is she? I'm on her Instagram. She's traveling. She's living this fabulous life. Who is this person and what the hell does she do? And to be honest, sometimes I don't know how to answer. I'm like, she does a lot, you know, like she does a little bit of this, she does a little bit of that. So I think it's just best to hear from the horse's mouth what you do.
I know, right?
And then of course, well, you know, I have a bunch of questions, but I want to just dive right in. And I just want you to tell us, you know, like, what is it that you actually do? We know that you are a great picture taker and a fabulous dresser, but we would just love to hear more about like the actual work as to how you generate money and feed yourself. And how you feed your child. We would like to know what you do.
The people want to know. It's hilarious to me because, not surprisingly, I get this question a lot.
I get it a lot for you, so I could just imagine.
Primarily because, like, you know, kind of like Cardi B, I don't want to choose. It's a lot of that energy, but to make it so that, and it's funny because I always tell my clients, like, you need to be very definitive so that people know exactly what they come to you for. And the very thing that I tell them to do, I've never done, but it works for them. So, you know, we're gonna take it from there. But no, so what I get paid to do is I am at my core a strategist. I am a brand strategist, but I always add a little flavor, a little sauce, a little oomph to it. So I do more than just brand strategy. I also show you how to develop, you know, go-to-market, like comprehensive, you know, go-to-market strategies that will assist you in achieving whatever your goal is. I'm a firm believer in get super clear on not just what you want, but who you are. So it's never just, oh, we're working on your business. Like, nah, what type of lifestyle do you want to lead? How many hours a week are you trying to work? How much effort do you want to put into your business? What's your desired monetary goals? But at this stage in my life, it's not just about the money, because making money is easy. Put me anywhere on God's green earth and I'll triple my worth. Word to Hove.
That's bars.
That's Uncle Jay. He don't know it yet, but we gonna vacation together. Me, him, Beyonce, the kids, my husband, like it's going to be a thing. He don't know it yet, but y'all heard it here first. But no, hands down, I'm a strategist. I help people figure out and tap into their zone of genius and then create products and services around that, whether I'm working in the wellness industry, like I do with True Yoga Agency, where we show wellness professionals how to create profitable businesses, or whether I'm working with executives, speaking on stages from the entertainment stage to the corporate boardroom, in that I am, you know, a certified speaker, a host, and also an executive coach, where I work with leading executives in some of the top, you know, organizations and companies around the globe. And I show them how to tap into, again, their zone of genius in order to, you know, get promotions at work, in order to present presentations. I have one coming up where I'm working with a number of executive women, showing them, hey, this is how you own every room, own every presentation. This is what it looks like. And that's usually through our GLP group. And then the last company, which is the one that I am going to be transitioning out of, and it's 7 years old, is 360 Gateway Brands. That's where I operate fully in branding and marketing, but I don't like it anymore. So I decided I'm not doing it anymore.
Because you just don't like. I told y'all. I've been telling y'all since the last season that she is the queen of the pivot. Alechia,
I don't like it.
Alechia will just wake up and decide that it just isn't it. It's just not what she wants to do anymore, and just come up with like a whole other way of doing it, and just be like, and I'm like, yeah, but you've been doing this for all this time, and what about this, and what about that? And she's like, yeah, we'll figure it out later. We'll get to that.
It drives people crazy.
I love it. It's my favorite thing about you. Like I have a lot of favorite things about you, but that I think is definitely top 3. Like I love your just like, you're super, and it's not even brave. It's like something more than brave. It's like, you just go for it. No matter like how scary it is, no matter like if you don't have every duck in a row, like you just pick up what you have and go. And I love that because it's one of my biggest struggles. And I love that our friendship is one of like where there's a lot of give and take, and there's a lot of accountability, but there's also a lot of admiration. And I always just admire how you'll say something like that. Like, yeah, I have this company I've been doing it for 7 years, is how I make all my money, but I don't want to do that anymore. I'm going to switch.
I don't. I really don't.
Why? Okay, 2 questions, and if you forget one, just ask it. I'll ask it again. Okay. Why are you kind of over it, and why are you wanting to change, and what exactly are you changing it to?
So that phrase earlier, put me anywhere on God's green earth and I'll triple my worth. I really do mean that. Yeah. And because I am so clear on the value that I bring to the table, that I understand no matter what I do, I'm going to be able to more than provide for myself and others. Yeah. So because I'm clear on that, and that's one of the first things that whenever I work with executives that I talk to them about, you've got to get super clear on your personal intrinsic value. Yeah. When you know that, man, you letting me go? Okay, cool, not a problem. I'll have a whole new company erected and profitable in 3 to 6 months. It's not I don't have a fear of my ability because I am so sure of what I do, how I create, and the fact that I know and am clear on my value. I know people will pay for that because I've helped people achieve 6 and 7 figures in income using, my consulting services. So I'm not confused about whether or not I can make money. Where my issue has come from is how do I, and we talked about it in the last episode, how do I anchor myself in joy? Because that's the piece that I feel that I want to get to where I'm at a level of peace that no matter what is happening, no matter the winds are blowing, the currents are going and being rough and all the things, that I'm still at peace. And for me, I am so grateful for the opportunities that, 360 has afforded me and has allowed me, but I'm giving her 6 more months and then we're going to, slowly take her out to pasture. I've already, incorporated, or not incorporated, but registered the DBA, and we'll do away completely with 360 and we'll, keep going on with the DBA. But for me, when people look at my Instagram, they feel alive. I know because when I look at it, I feel alive.
For sure. I'm always like, I need a trip.
I feel, yes.
I need a vacation.
And that's what I want to do. And what's crazy is for the last 5 years, mind you, my company is 7, but for the last 5 years, I've been saying, I just want to travel all over the world, speak, equipped, and empower, because I don't believe in just empowering people, because that is disrespectful to give somebody a whole tank of gas and take their phone and GPS and ask them to figure it out. And for me, that's what empowerment does. Again, no disrespect to the empowerment queens and kings. Live y'all best life. Live your best life. But if you are not also equipping people with tools that they can utilize and practical steps that they can implement in order to get from point A to point C, D, E, F, G, or whatever it is they're going, you're putting them at a disadvantage because you have literally given them a tank full of gas and taken away their utilities to actually get to wherever it is that they're going. So I've been saying it for the past 5 years. I just want to travel all over the world, speak, equipped, and empower people. So why not? Why not? We are perishable items. We gonna die. That is, if y'all remember nothing else I say, we're all going to die, whether it's tomorrow, some people later today,
Oh
some
no.
people, but it's a reality, right? Nobody wants to talk about it. Like, oh no, I'm going to live forever. Okay, well, you let me know what you drinking so I can sip some of that too. But the reality is we are perishable items. And because we are perishable items, it means we only have a finite amount of time to discover all that we are, to travel and to explore and to learn and to give back and to impact. And I can't do all of that if every time I open my laptop, I am miserable.
Yeah.
I can't do all that.
Yeah, what you have is what is called or known as a deathbed mentality. So it is something that is taught in some schools of thought where you pretty much have a deathbed mentality where you're constantly aware of the fact that you are going to die, but not in a morbid way, in a motivating way where you realize that you don't have time to do it tomorrow or the next day or put it off or not call that person today or not write that book today. So it's a good thing that you feel like that. I mean, you have a great way of saying it that sounds like what? But it is a normal way to try to get to, because a lot of people don't understand that our time is finite here on planet Earth.
Finite.
So I love that. And I do think you embody and embrace that, even before putting words to it or hearing you say it, you definitely do that and live your life like that. Like you just jump, and whether it's off an actual cliff on an island somewhere, or it's figuratively when it comes to business, you definitely live your life with that deathbed mentality. And you just, I think you have a good way of grounding yourself, but also being able to take flight when you need to. And I think it's because you do ground yourself in such a way where when you really are doing something, you're 100% focused, you give it all of your energy. And when you're done with it, you're just done with it. But I think you're able to, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but just from observing you for the last decade, I think the reason why you're so good at just kind of leaving things or, taking it out to pasture when it's ready, because I think that you are happy with all the effort and life you put into it. And then you don't leave with like questions like shoulda, coulda, woulda, or man, maybe I could have done this better or that better. I feel like you do such an excellent job of giving it your all that when it's time to walk away from it, you feel like you did all you could. Is that correct?
You just gave me goosebumps. I've never been able to articulate it like that. But yes, no, but that is okay. I got to come back from my little goosebumps here. But no, that is literally exactly what it is.
Yeah.
If I'm in, I'm in.
Yeah.
You ain't got to wonder about whether I'm going to do. If I say I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. All that hemming and hawing back and forth.
Yeah, for sure. I agree.
That's never been me. Please, if you like the hem and haw, if you unstable as water, I cannot. If you are low effort, I am no energy, as in I am not giving you my energy. But you just articulated it perfectly. I am going to give 100, sometimes 110% in all things. So when it's time, and my daughter is funny, like she's such a dope kid. She be getting on my nerves sometimes, but she's just really, really awesome. And she says all the time, she's like, when things no longer serve you, you have to be willing to let dead things go. Her words, not mine. I didn't give her those words. That's what she says all the time, especially about people, in our lives. And so she said it one day early this year, and it just clicked. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and close the business because it no longer serves me. I don't like it. It takes too much energy for not enough profit and income. If from one of my other companies in 45 minutes, I can be paid, and this is a nominal fee, especially considering what some other professional speakers, make and are paid, $5,000. Why would I want to accept a client that I'm going to have to work with for an entire month, meeting 4 to 5 times that month, literally giving my essence? Because again, it's not just for me about your marketing or your branding strategy. Nah, I'm 360 is a real thing in that we speak about all of the avenues, what you want, how you want to feel. So if I'm giving that much of my spirit and energy into erecting companies alongside my clients, I'm gonna need to be paid a whole hell of a lot more for it.
So is that what your transition? Can you speak a little bit more about, so what is it
Absolutely.
exactly that you'll be doing more now, or what your business model will be moving
Yeah.
forward?
Yeah, so I want to just be paid to speak. I really do I want to luxuriate for a living. And I said it the other day and someone laughed at me and I was like, but I'm serious. Why is it that that is something that is so strange that America has taught us that if we are not damn near killing ourselves, and it's not just America, because, Japanese culture has the same thing in that, who works the hardest, wins best, or, to die on the job. I ain't trying to do that. I just want to be like, 85 plus, and I want to be like, damn, I had a good run at this thing. I have done all
Right.
the things. I have kissed the boys, kissed the girls, had a great time, enjoyed myself. And now I think I'm ready to, be done with this realm. I'm ready for what's next. I want my spirit to flutter like a butterfly, all over the ethos. Like that's what I want. And it sounds really crazy, but I'm just like, why can't it be that I live a life of ease? My ancestors struggled so I wouldn't have to.
Ooh, that part.
They crawled, so that I could run, and then I could teach my daughter, so that I could walk, and then I could teach my daughter to run, and then she can teach her kids to sprint. And we can have it generation after generation where we know how to generate income with ease. Why do we have to attach wealth with this hard work mentality? I just no longer agree. I'd much rather work smart, hence the relationship game.
I love that. And I love you speaking about, kind of making and clearing the way for future generations, because that is one of the biggest racial disparities in this country, is the accumulation of wealth and just wealth waiting for you. Like when you look at the discrepancies between Blacks and whites, a big part of it is that we don't typically have inheritances in the Black community. We don't have anything. Our colleges are usually based on loans, and we don't have real estate to fall back on. Like I was telling my partner that one of my biggest dreams and goals is to make sure that my daughter always has a home to come back to, because I never had that. I still don't have a place that if everything was to go to shit, I could just go, oh my God, didn't I say I hate these? I hate these. Apple.
Her AirPods are coming out
Do
again.
something about this. This is not functional.
We're going to ask one of their product development specialists to come on to talk to us about how you get these things to stay in your ears. Like, what do we do? What is it?
They are a trigger. I think they're a trigger.
They are definitely a trigger because they're always falling out. Listen, I told you, I lost one. Like, guys, you may notice I don't have another one in here. It's because I was flying back. I got to EWR Airport. Y'all, clearly we go off on tangents. It's okay. We'll come back. But I walked out of the airport and I'm about to get into the car and my AirPod drops into the sewer.
Oh my God. See, and it's expensive.
It's expensive. Why? Nowhere else will I pay $300-$400 for a product that literally will die super quick, and that I will be able to use it.
I'm worried it's gonna die during this episode right now. Look, it fell out again. I can't. I quit. That was just gonna stay there.
Listen, guys, I told you we go off on tangents. This is how we talk. Our phone conversations are.
What was that?
Hilarious.
I don't even know what I was saying. What was I talking about?
Listen, I don't remember, but we're gonna tap into another part of the conversation, and then we'll, it'll come back around. It'll come back around.
We'll circle back. Maybe we won't. I don't know.
Who knows?
But yeah. So something I wanted you to talk about more. And I believe you spoke about it a little bit briefly in a previous episode from season 1, where we talk about being a Jack or Jane of all trades.
Yeah.
and your ability to just pivot. What do you think is most beneficial part of your ability to do that? Like, why do you feel like it's so necessary to do it? And what do you feel like has happened positively as a result of your ability to do that?
So first of all, I'll address the best thing that has happened as a result of me being able to pivot so well. Is again, I've anchored myself in my belief in myself. I feel like no matter what happens, as long as I don't die, I got another opportunity to try this thing over again. As long as we still living, I can try again. But most people are so afraid of failure that they don't try. And for me, I'm just like, man, failure is merely greatness in its infancy. I'm going to try it. If it worked out, phenomenal. If it didn't, phenomenal. Because I have not failed. I've just figured out what don't fucking work. And all right, well, let me try some other shit. And for those who, can't take it that rough, let me say it a little nicer for you. If it didn't work one way, try it another way. It doesn't mean you give up. And we said it again in the last episode, and you said it, and I loved it. You said it's still the way, it's just not the path. Like, and I say it all the time. Plan B is to make plan A work, even if I have to take avenue C. And for me, with this next pivot and transition, so like you said, you never had a place to go back to. My mother.
That's what we were talking about.
Oh, see, I told you it was gonna come back.
Come on back.
It was gonna come right.
I was saying that that's one of the biggest disparities between blacks and whites is real estate, and just the when we're starting out life after we graduate high school as Black people, we don't tend to have any kind of economic anything, right? So I said that to my partner, that I really want to make sure that my daughter, we have a home that no matter if life puts her flat on her face, that she can always come home.
Yeah.
And that not having that launching pad for a lot of Black people has been such oh my God, it's been such a grave injustice to us that we don't even realize how different that is. So when you spoke about that with Sanaya, your daughter, and how important that is for you to make sure that your future generations have an idea of wealth, how to accumulate wealth, and how to do it in an easier way. Than with ease, and working smarter, not harder. I think that's just so powerful, because it literally will help enhance the quality of their lives. And I mean, I always used to say,
I always just said something that I need you to repeat, that the quality of our lives. It's not just about the quantity. Quality. I don't like the quality of my life currently. So you are not a tree. You can move. I don't give a shit about who says, oh, well, you shouldn't do that. When I first moved to New York, I love my mother dearly, but she told me that I was being selfish and I wasn't thinking about my child. And I sat, because you like to, I want to take it in. Let me see if this is true. And I said, you know what? You're right.
As you should. Yeah.
I am being selfish. Second, I'm okay with it. I'm okay.
I'm being selfish. Cool. Let's go.
Yes. I'm out. And we're moving. But I told her, I was like, I'm being selfish for the greater good.
Yeah.
Not just because I'm just thinking about me and only me. No, if I don't make a move, I am going to die in this place. I'm going to die broken. I'm going to die alone, and I'm going to die never having tapped into the fullness of who I am. So I pivot the way I pivot is because the alternative is death without ever tapping into the fullness of me. And by me tapping into the fullness of myself, I'm able to inspire and help hundreds of thousands of other people, because I have tapped so fully into the gifts that I've been given. For a lot of people, they believe that when it's time for them to die and when they're called up, that, God is going to list out all the things that they did wrong. And for me, at least in the portion of my Bible that I read, your righteousness is as filthy rags. Don't nobody give a shit about how righteous you were. A, especially if you didn't lead in love. And B, if the gifts and talents that you were given, you took them and hid them and helped no one else. You were born to be of service. I cannot service anybody if I have not first serviced myself. So my mother told me I was being selfish. I was like, yeah, you're right. And now we're going to get on prepared with this good move.
And the word selfish tends to have such a bad connotation because you feel it makes you think you're not serving others when you're being selfish. Mm-hmm. And that's not true. That's a misconception. Sometimes being selfish, you are being an asshole and you are being self-centered and it only is serving you. But there are times that you do have to be selfish to serve the greater good. It's a part of like Absolutely. When I started my process of setting boundaries, it comes off as really selfish. That's the word people throw around when they can't cartwheel over your boundaries no more. They start to say that you're selfish, and when they can't two-step across that. So that's what it made me think of when you said, I was selfish, but it was for a greater good. It's such an awakening when you can realize that, like when you're like, okay, you know what, this is going to come off as selfish. It is going to come off as maybe not the best thing to do, but for me and my house, this is the best decision that's going to play out better in 10, 20, 30, 40, 100 years. And I love that you even will have the foresight to even think about that and have the vision, because a lot of us don't have vision. We don't know how to think beyond what we can see right now, beyond what we were taught. It's very, especially, like I said, I think in the Black community, we tend to lack vision because we don't often have any example of what something different can look like. The fact that you are even thinking on that scale, and I think a lot of us are starting to, with an awakening, just overall, we're all starting to get woke, right? I hate that term, but for lack of a better word, so it's just, I'm always so happy to hear somebody say, like, this is for the future generations. I want to make sure that my daughter understands that she has access, she can tap in, she can use the natural gifts and talents that she has to generate wealth and to generate a livelihood so that she can really walk in her purpose to serve and live the life that she wants to live and have, and that she can have whatever she wants. I love that.
Absolutely. And to me, first, you have to identify what that is. I have literally been saying for 5 years, I just want to travel all over the world, equipped and empower people to be their best selves. Why has it taken me 5 years to be like, you know what, sis, you could do that? Why has it taken me 5 years? Because I hadn't thought about, well, how do I do this? I was too afraid. And people like, oh, you're never afraid. Shit, I can't proclaim I ain't never scared, because that's just not factual. But I finally decided I'm sick of my own shit. I'm sick of my own excuses. And again, because I have full trust in who I am, and also in the fact that why can't I build the plane while I'm flying it? Because the moment I leap, there's something that happens energetically in the universe. And I too separate God from the universe, because how can you call the universe God when God created it? I'm sorry. Just like, even though I created my daughter and she is of me, she is not me. So I don't get the two confused, and no disrespect to those who do. That's your business. Live your best life. But for me, I'm a firm believer in karmic energy. Once I get into play, once I press play and get into motion, literally the universe starts to bring me what I need to make whatever it is happen. And because I have already agreed that this is what I want, this is what I'm going to do, then okay, that's what we're doing. And like you said, my mother, for the longest, my parents in general, they never had a place for us to go back to. They never did. From the time I was a child, it was always really, really tumultuous. It was stressful. It was hard. But now my mother decided too. She made a decision that she was going to do something different. So she bought a house in Jacksonville. Nice. And so I said, you know what? She said she always wanted us to have a place to come back to, just in case we decided we wanted to make a different decision. I'm going to take her up on her offer. My entire childhood, I felt like I didn't have one because my parents checked out. Again, no disrespect to them. They did the best they could with what they had at the time, and they experienced something traumatic. They lost a child. My mother went crazy. My father checked out, and I had to grow the fuck up much faster than I had hoped. I stopped playing with dolls when I was 8 years old. So there were things that I just didn't get a chance to do. And although they eventually tapped back in, by the time they tapped back in, like, I was good, love. I don't need you to parent me now. I'm good. I'm done. It's finished. Even though I'm still legally underage, it is finished. And so my mother, she got that house, and she was just like, when and if ever you need a place, I got you. So I was like, let me take you up on this offer. I'm going to give myself 6 months to close out the last things in the business the way it is now. And I'm going to just go home. ET phone home. I'm coming.
So, and see, that's another thing is like some people have so much pride and so much ego that they don't want to give up this lifestyle or this thing or that thing to backtrack, to launch forward, right? Because sometimes you do have to pull back to get more velocity, right? And it oftentimes will prevent people from making any changes because they feel stuck, but then they're not willing to get unstuck by maybe getting uncomfortable. And that's also something I've seen you do. What are your thoughts around that? Or how do you get to the space where you're like, okay, I'm going to give up my luxurious space that I live in now. I'm going to move from one state to another state that I had left. And I'm going to, go back home to my mom, give myself a timeline. How do you do that without feeling like you're failing or like, or feeling ashamed in any way?
So for me, shame usually comes from outside. And let me explain what I mean. Yes, there are some forms of shame that are internal, but shame many times comes from outside because you're not you in particular, but you are afraid of what people may say or how they may perceive you. And for me, I have just gotten to the point to where I don't give a fuck. Like, I tried my best. That's why I said it slower so I could try a nicer way to say that. And there just wasn't one. IDAF. I don't give a fuck. Because someone else's opinion of me and the decisions that I make are irrelevant. Unless they finna come over here and pay a bill for me or, gonna handle some part of the business for me, their opinion of my decisions or how I'm making them are irrelevant. That's their business. Everybody is entitled to their own opinion. But for me, and you said it earlier, the only way for an arrow truly to be thrust forward if it's first pulled back. If I say that how things are currently, I don't have the quality of life that I want, only a person who doesn't think logically or make very good decisions would keep doing the same thing, expecting something magical to happen to where all of a sudden it's going to be better. No, change happens when you change. You want change? Motherfucker, change then.
Yeah.
Change.
True. Yeah.
Oh, that's what I'm doing. I'm changing. We literally, it looks nice in this little view right here, but the rest of the house, it has Post-its and sticky notes of what's going to the trash, what's being boxed up. For me, it's such a freeing feeling in that, I am not tied to what no longer serves me. I can't climb a mountain holding boulders or suitcases. I can't. I need my hands to be free. And it is a challenging thing, especially like when I talk to my daughter, she's just like, well, I don't really want to move. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. And I talk to her and I say, I truly do respect your position and how you feel. These are some other alternatives that you can exercise if you would like. If you do not want to come with me, I love you. And I am more than willing to allow, you to stay with your father while I am in a process of figuring it out. I don't know who told us that we have to have everything all figured out by a certain age. You're going to evolve and grow and change. And I am totally fine with doing that in front of my daughter. I have no desire to be perfect in front of her because I need her to understand that perfection is not something that is truly attainable. Excellence absolutely is, but perfection, because we're human, I just don't think that that's that attainable. And again, to those who want to debate, fight your mama, you win. I'm not arguing.
Yeah, I think you can perfect things, but I don't think the perfection overall is attainable. I think there are things that can be perfected in certain ways,
Absolutely.
but then even then, someone with a different eye might come in and be like,
Hated it.
that's
It's
wrong.
subjective.
That's off. Yeah, it is
It's
subjective
really,
for
really
sure.
subjective. And that's
Yeah.
really, really okay. It's
Yeah.
okay because what's perfect for me might not be perfect for you. And what's perfect for
Across the
you,
board. Yeah.
yeah, might be the worst for me and vice versa. So for me, I just feel like I've come to the point and place and space in my life in my 35 years of living that I'm so cool and so okay with who I am as a human that if I need to pivot or change, okay. Me
Yeah.
doing this will allow me to purchase the investment property that I need to in Miami in November. And then it'll also allow me to purchase a multifamily unit in Q1 of 2022. So feel how you want to feel. I know what my plans are and what my, what the goal is or what we doing. Not having, I spend quite a bit of money living in New York, New Jersey area on rent. I'm at over 50K a year. Why the fuck not? Why would I not give myself an opportunity to
Yeah.
pocket that to be able to buy multifamily units? For me, in my head, I'm always the ultimate goal is to have 100-unit estate that I can allow folks who are on welfare to come and stay there at the discounted rate, but have to go through my continuing education program where they're in trade schools, where they're in community colleges that position them to be off of welfare in 5 years. That is my vision. I could give two fucks about somebody looking at now and being like, oh, well, she down. Okay. However you want to feel. All right. Feel how you want.
Yeah. Which is, again, something that I've just always admired about you because you really are like that. Something I want to kind of backtrack and I want you to elaborate on a little bit was when you were talking about how the reason why you wanted to shut down 360 and, do something different and transition to the new model for what you want to do as a business. Was kind of wanting to get off that like hamster wheel of like I have to work so hard, I have to put in all these hours, I have to sacrifice this, I have to do that. Why, where was it, or at what point did you start to feel like, okay, this is draining, or this is not really going to long term make me feel happy? Like, what are your thoughts around that? Because I feel like a lot of entrepreneurs subscribe to that mentality of, I have to bust my ass, I have to work so hard, I have to give up this, I have to sacrifice that. If I don't work really, really hard, nothing is going to happen in my favor. There is no success without this extremely hard work. I want you to kind of talk a little bit more about that because I think that's such a game changer, especially for women entrepreneurs, because we tend to also be mothers and caregivers of different for all sorts of people, and chefs and chauffeurs, and the hard work is
Cleaners.
just being a woman, especially if you're a wife and a mother, tends to come with a whole list of duties, right? So so how do you kind of get to a space where you realize that, okay, I want to work smarter? What does that actually look like?
So for me, it was a psychologist telling me that he needed to find me a psychiatrist to prescribe drugs so that I wouldn't have such deep depressive moments. And I
Mm.
was just like, what? He was like, well, you have high functioning depression. Like I would be in my bed sometimes for weeks at a time where I would just work from my bed, like producing, but barely getting out to eat, barely getting up to use the restroom, because I was just so sad. The quality of life, the only time I was truly or felt like, okay, I'm rooting myself in joy again was when I was in another country or in another place, or I felt free and not trapped. The moments where I would feel like as soon as I got home, that that feeling of just sadness would overtake me because I knew that I was going to have to now tap in to do a 60, 70 hour week working on everybody else's company except for the things that brought me joy, I was just like, this ain't it. Like, and I don't want to have to, and again, no disrespect to people who need medication. If you need it, baby girl, baby boy, Mr. Master, sir, go get it. But for me, I'm like, no, this is environmental. And because this is environmental, I can change this. This is a choice that I am making because I feel like I have to. I have so many people that I have to take care of, that I have to do for, that I have to. Fuck all y'all. No. No, I'm drawing boundaries so that, again, I can be more selfish and I can show up better for not just myself, but for those who I'm called to. I'm tired of pouring from an empty cup. I'm tired of it. So for me, when that man told me he needed to connect me with a psychiatrist so they can prescribe drugs because I was too depressed, I'm just like...
You feel like that was a wake-up call to realize that there was something deeper going on, that you weren't as maybe happy as you felt. Because I know a good amount of entrepreneurs, and I have often found that there's this underlying unhappiness that just tends to come hand in hand with that nobody talks about. All you're seeing are the cars and the houses and the jewelry and the trips. And it's like, okay, these are my actual friends. And these are my actual friends. Like, I actually know this person. And this person is not as happy as they seem, you know? And we have been kind of programmed to believe that that is the only way to attain success, that there isn't another option. For the majority of us, even though most wealth in this country, especially from what I understand, especially at the highest levels, is inherited.
Inherited or through divorce. So either you inherit it or you gonna marry somebody rich and get a divorce. Like,
the only people that are, I mean, of course you have your ground up people, the people that came from you came from absolutely nothing, you worked your way up or whatever. But there are a great amount of people who just were born wealthy, and they just are like that, and that's just their lives. And you know, we have the opportunity to create that for our children, and maybe we do have to work a little hard for a period of time, but you know, I do think the goal should be to maybe work hard and do what you have to do so that eventually you can do what you want to do, as opposed to feeling like what you have to do is the only road and the only way things have to be done. I do think that there is an element of hard work that you've already put in, so now you have the luxury of doing what you want to do because of all the hard work. So I don't want to ever negate or say that hard work is not necessary, because I do think there's a place for it. I just think working yourself to death and only working forever until you die is not necessarily going to give you the quality of life that you think you're going to have from all this hard work. One, it's a natural stressor on your body and causes chronic stress, which leads to inflammation in the body, which leads to all sorts of diseases. I even I actually want to pull it up because I want to say it correctly. There's this doctor that I follow that I just am obsessed with. I probably am quoting him most times that we're talking. Dr. Mark Hyman, you should follow him on Instagram. Everyone on earth should know who this person is. But he actually said on a post the other day, 2 days ago, research estimates that 90% of illness and disease is stress related. 90%. So they're even, crazy. And he talks about, like, you know, stress management, and it's more like chronically stressed and anxious or depressed and things like that. And we're not digging deeper because we're just so used to seeing our mothers and our relatives and our friends live like that, that we actually think that it's normal.
It's the norm.
We think it's normal. And we'll definitely get more into how to manage stress and things like that, because there's a bunch of things you could do. But it's just interesting that I heard you say, I've never heard you say that, you know, you were diagnosed with like high functioning depression. I could definitely look back now and see that, and see the signs of that. Now that you say it, it's like, yeah, that actually makes sense, because I remember like calling you and you were just like down. Like your whole mood, your vibe, and you're like a really bubbly person, but I would call you and your voice was heavy and your spirit was heavy, and I'd be like, what's wrong? And you're just like, I am just overwhelmed, I'm exhausted, you know. And it was just like, okay, like,
all the
where's
time.
this all the time? Yeah, I feel like I feel like there was a period of time where I would speak to you and it was pretty regular that you were just just worn, like you were just worn out, period.
Done for. And that is
Yeah.
the life that, again, because, and here's the thing about hard work. What they don't tell you is yes, there are elements to it, but you want to do it in sprints, not to where this is just constantly all there is.
So you want to
Because
find a resting in that? Like you need to
there
rest
needs to
from
be
time to time?
rest. There
Okay.
has to be moments of rest. And then two, you have to be smart about this hard work that I'm putting in. Does this align with what my ultimate goal is? And can I hire out? I don't care if you work
Oh,
for a Fortune 500, 100, you're this super big executive. Require that your company hires you an assistant or a project manager who can take some of the workload off of you. You
yeah,
do
that's
not
good
have
advice.
to just accept that, oh, I'm the CEO, so I'm going to be overworked and overwhelmed and stressed the fuck out. No, the fuck you don't have to take this. Say no.
Yeah.
Consent matters. Even in your business. Don't think that, oh, well, I'm a new entrepreneur, I can't afford it. No bullshit. Price whatever your product or serving offering is, price it at a point to where it incorporates and builds in what it's going to cost you to have a project
That's good.
manager, or to have an assistant, or to have an account executive. So no, it's not cheap to work with me, because y'all not going to stress me. I'm one person servicing many. So yes, it's going to cost you, it's quite a few thousands of dollars buy-in, because again, I give my essence, and I can't keep giving my essence without also charging you for the things that are going to need to be supports for it. Why is it that the expectation is that you have to be exhausted all the time? I no longer subscribe to hard work. I am choosing a life of ease. And me saying I don't want to work hard anymore does not mean that I'm saying I'm just giving you foolishness. No, I am just incorporating into my pricing the support systems and the teams that I'm going to need so that I'm still able to maintain my optimum level.
I
Because
love that.
again, I just want to speak and travel all over the world and equip and empower people to be their best selves, to tap into their personal value, to achieve whatever their goals are. That's all I want to do. I don't want to
Yeah.
design stuff for nobody. I don't want to build websites for nobody, but I do want to partner with other businesses so that they can, so that my clients can pay them to do it. I want freedom. And I want a life of ease. And I feel like, again, my ancestors worked hard as hell. And I did too for the first 34 years of my life. And now I'm choosing different.
And I think it's important for people to know that that's an option. Because
It's an option. It's a
just from
choice.
speaking to people or just in my own experiences, for me, being in a friendship with you and having a relationship with you, I've always just been inspired by your ability to do that, because that's something that I struggle with, where I feel like, oh, I was doing this. And then if I say I'm going to do something else, people are going to have some type of thought about it. Like, oh, you're giving up, or you're quitting, or you feel like you can't make up your mind. You don't know what you want to do with yourself.
And I don't.
And
Neither do you. You're miserable. How you
yeah,
gonna tell me?
right. And it's like, hearing you we've had 100 conversations about that with me. And, one day it just finally clicked and I was like, you know what? I want to do different things in this life. I don't want to just do one thing for the rest of my life. Like, that's not enticing to me. There are people that want to work for a company for 45 years. Like, I used to work for AT&T. And I worked in a call center. And after the car accident that I got into, that I spoke about on the first episode, I ended up leaving a few months later after that, because I was like, I hate this. And I remember when I was leaving, some of my coworkers had been working there for almost 5 years. And it's great money. And, it was affording me a certain lifestyle. And, I felt like, okay, I had plans maybe to move up in the company and all that stuff. And I remember when I was leaving, a coworker said to me, you're going to leave. I'm so scared to leave because I don't want to not work somewhere that doesn't have a union. And not to sound any kind of way, but I was just like, you and I do not want the same things out of this life. I'm like, you're worried about the union?
No.
Like, I don't give a fuck about
And
the union. But
and
but it
that's
was
what a
just
lot
like,
of people it's
it
a
was
real thing for
crazy to
them.
me. I was like,
It's a
it was
real
something
fear.
so simple, Alicia, but I was
Mhm.
like, look at what this person is concerned about. They're just like, I'm just gonna
Yeah.
work, and because they are afraid to leave their job because they don't want to
Mhm.
work somewhere where there isn't some like fake system that advocates for them, that they think advocates for them. Like,
Yeah.
it was just, and no disrespect to any unions and things like that, but I mean,
Yeah.
for the
I
most
don't know
part,
enough about
like,
unions, so I don't know
yeah,
what they do, to
like
be honest.
I've seen lots of people lose their job at places that have unions. But anyways,
Mm.
my point was just that for me, it was like a very real moment where I realized that I cannot listen to someone who wants something out of life that I don't want. I can't have
Mm-mm.
you direct me. I can't have you influence me. I can't have your
No,
opinions in my brain and, swaying me
'cause
one way
it's
or
not
another, because it's not
this
wrong
ain't
what
it.
you want. It's just that we don't want the same things. We don't have the same palette.
Yep.
We don't have the same desires in life. Like, and that's
Yep.
okay. It doesn't make one better
Sure
than the
doesn't.
other. It's just, I was like, okay, yeah, that's not what I want for my life. I don't want to work for a company for
Mhm.
45 years and
Same.
retire and have like, what is that, pension and a
5 or
401k. It's
10
like,
years
I was
left
talking to
to
people
enjoy.
on the phone. I was talking to customers on the phone that were living off their 401k that weren't able to pay a $25 phone bill with
Mm.
with people that worked for companies for 50 years, right? And now they were older and they didn't have an income. They would call it a fixed income. That's what they say. They say, I want
Yeah.
a fixed income. I can't afford this. And they would call about a 25-cent charge. And I was like, I do not want to live on a fixed income ever. Right.
No,
Like, I just,
that's not the goal.
not to the point where my income is so fixed that I have to stress myself out and I cannot live the life that I can't do whatever I want. The goal is to
Yeah.
do whatever I want.
Yeah.
And, you
Freedom.
saying that brought that back to me where it was like, I want freedom. And I think that's what we all
Mhm.
want in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, but
And
many entrepreneurs say they want freedom, and then they start jobs that put additional shackles on them.
it's just
Like,
different. It's just a different
it's
set of
just a
shots.
different
That's
type
such
of
a good way to
shackle.
say it. It's just a
It's a
different
different
thing
type of
because
shackle.
you just imprison yourself. Like,
Literally.
somebody else is imprisoning you. You're imprisoning you.
You're not the
And
warden to your own prison. And
yeah,
I just decided I don't wanna do that no more.
I love it. That's
I just
incredible.
don't. And I finished literally, I just graduated from Goldman Sachs program, and there were a number of folks in there, and they would speak, and I would absolutely never say their names because there is an expectation of privacy, and I never ever, I don't do that. I don't, you know, if it was private, said in private or in trust, it will always and forever remain in trust. But one of the things that I noticed is there were a number of folks, in that program who they were so miserable and they hated their companies, but they were still doing them. And then I looked and I was like, "Man, you're doing the same thing.
That's you. That's you doing that.
That's you, sis.
Yeah.
You are doing the same thing." And so after I finished the program, I went out of the country once, and then my folks surprised me for a birthday and took me out of the country. And then as soon as I got back, I said, okay, let's start working on this exit strategy, what it's looking like. At first, I was like, okay, I'll give it 2 to 3 more years. I'll get it to a certain point, then sell it. And I was like, my mental wellness cannot last another 2 to 3 years. No, I'll do the DBA. The DBA allows me to be in more of a management consulting position versus a doing and executing type of position. I can no longer do that. And I don't want to hire. I know people are like, oh, well, you can just hire people to do it for you. I don't want to do that. No, consent matters, especially when you're building your business. I need you to consent fully to what will work for you and what won't.
And I love this. I love that you were transparent and vulnerable, kind of talking about you not being as happy as it may always seem. Because, honestly, I can see someone like just going to your Instagram and just looking at your Instagram and feeling like, oh my God, she has a perfect life. She's living the best life ever. She's so fabulous. She's so fly. She's just like adventurous as hell. She's always in another part of the world. Like if I didn't know you, I could totally see someone taking your highlight reel and feeling like that is the full picture and that's the full reality. So I love that you are, someone that's an influencer on Instagram that does have the picture perfect Instagram, but is also being vulnerable to be like, hey, yeah, I do have great moments in life that I've captured that I'm sharing with you.
That I love.
But there are also that were genuinely great moments, but there are also other moments to even get me to that moment that were harder and not as beautiful and not as picture perfect. Because I think more people need to hear about the underbelly of entrepreneurship. Like there's this other part that is not that glamorous, and there's a vulnerability that comes with being an entrepreneur. Because you are really just like betting on yourself, which is difficult. And it is something that I just, like I said, from just knowing so many entrepreneurs and having close relationships with them, that there tends to be this unhappiness. So for me, when I decided to foray into my own entrepreneurship, I wanted to make sure it was something that I really, really enjoyed that didn't feel like work. Because I've been so turned off from entrepreneurship from entrepreneurs that I know. I'm like, y'all got money, but y'all unhappy. And that's why I had stopped going to church, because I didn't get it. I was like, look, you serve this God and you're really miserable. I maybe need to seek out another way, because this way that you're doing just isn't working. So for me, anytime I see examples, I used to have a loved one say to me all the time that you don't have to experience it. You can look at others' experiences and completely avoid that pitfall if you're smart enough. You don't have to go through it. I already went through it for you. That person went through it for you. Why not observe and say, hey, there's a pothole in that ground on that street. Maybe I'll take a different street.
Listen, Uncle Jay
think about that.
Hopefully you won't have to go through that. Like, listen,
why do we feel like we have to have our own experiences, or we have to go through it too just to know for ourselves? Yes, sometimes you do need to see for yourself. I'm not ever taking away from the value of experience, but there are some times where the experience that they went through was so that you can completely avoid it. And when I see miserable ass entrepreneurs that have money and success, but they're miserable, and I've worked with some entrepreneurs as clients, and a lot of times their biggest issue is disconnect from higher self and that which is greater than you. Stress, like I've never seen, and like no 9-to-5er has. Okay, for people that work a 9-to-5, and people like to make you feel like shit for working a 9-to-5. Let me tell you, your stress level, because where your paycheck is coming from, it's different. Way less. Sometimes you have to balance out what's worth it, because do you want to, say that you're an entrepreneur for the sake of saying it, and you're still stressed out and sometimes struggling to make ends meet because you work for yourself? Yes, that comes with a certain peace and control, but there's also a lot of sacrifice and a lot of work that has to be put in. So I love that you were transparent and vulnerable to kind of share all of it, that you do have the confidence to know what you're capable of and what you have to offer and your value. And you also are aware of just how draining and stressful it has been the way you were doing it. And the best part about you always is being brave enough to say, hey, that's not working. I'm going to make sure that I'm going to preserve myself, and I'm going to make sure that I'm going to launch forward by taking a step back and not feeling any shame, guilt, embarrassment around that. That is just so dope. Like, I love that. Every time you come to me with like, I'm going to do this, and I'm like, huh?
You're like, wait, but didn't you just say, don't worry about it. Just
I'm like, I just spoke to you 48 hours ago, and that was not the plan. Like, how is this the plan now? It's amazing. And I just want you to know that it's so inspiring to me. And I'm sure as people listen to this episode and all the episodes where we talk about just how like fearless, not without fear, but fearless in the presence of fear, that you're still going to do what you need to do.
We have to. We all have to.
It's just incredible. Yeah, it's such a wonderful and admirable way to live. And it's something that I constantly aspire to. Like, whenever I'm afraid, like I'm going to be launching my like official website, and I'm like so nervous. I'm so nervous. I'm like, okay, this is going to, take my practice to another level. And I'm like, okay, what would Alechia do? Like, seriously, I'm like, all right, Alechia would just go for it. Alechia wouldn't care. Alechia's just going to do it and fix it as it goes. Cause I'm like, oh, I want my website to be perfect. I want to have this. I want to have that. I want to make sure this is in place. And I know that Alechia is going to take, it could be a half done website, but we launching. And as long as it has A, B, and C, we're going to go for it. And I'll fix it later. I'll fix it as I mess up. I'll fix it as I figure out what works and what doesn't work. And that for me, it's just been so awesome to have someone like that in my life. That's just like, pick up what you got and go. Figure it out later.
There's a movie that, I hope 18-year-olds haven't, subscribed to or watched. But Diamond, when she decided to, go into the nightlife, and, it was the world of sex. And one of the strippers who was already in the nightlife, told her, use what you got to get what you want. Now, I snuck and watched that movie when I was a little younger because we were not allowed to listen to, to look at the devil's movies.
Same.
So I snuck and watched it. And what I got from that, where she was talking about, use your body to, get what you want, use what you got to get what you want. I took it a totally different way, in that we all have something in us. We all have some gift, something that we can use and that we get to use to build a life that we want, a life that can bring us joy and can bring us peace. But we will have to, the verb in that was use. Use means you're going to have to do
that's
something
incredible.
with it.
Yeah, like, for sure.
Do something with it. And make sure that when you are doing it, like, as you grow, identify what milestones. MVP means minimum viable product. Because it used to be Macintosh. Before Macintosh became Apple, they didn't have the iPhone 12. You know what they had? iPhone. And then as they made iterations and grew and learned, they had the iPhone 5 and the iPhone 6.
Oh, that's such a good example, because they had to fix the bugs and the issues and find ways to make it better. That's awesome. That's a great analogy.
Exactly. You don't learn certain things unless you're on the field. You can read all day long in a book about what to do when you get hit. It's cute, but you don't really learn what to do when you get hit until you get on the field.
Yep.
Get on the field so you can see how it feels to get hit. And then you can decide, is this the field that I want to be on? For me, it's no, because I don't like violence. I'm good, love, and joy. Y'all enjoy now. I'm going to go over here to the synchronized swimming. I'm going to go to the synchronized swimming.
Low impact.
Low impact. We're going to teach me how to breathe in and breathe out. That's what we're going to do. So for me, it really, truly is. It's all about learning and understanding, hey, this is who I am. This is the type of life that I want to lead. And this is how I want to feel living this life, working yourself to the bone, killing yourself, making it so that, you got the money, cars, clothes, and everything else, but you're miserable. That is not a life that I'm willing to lead, period, point blank. That is not something I'm willing to do. And my hope is that through me deciding how I'm going to live my life, that others will also be inspired to create their own version and idea of what success looks like, because it's different for every person. For me, success is peace and freedom. Peace and freedom. Freedom to be able to up and move when I want to, and the peace to know that no matter what is happening around me, that I'm rooted in joy. And until I get that, I'm going to keep pivoting and switching and turning and being okay with whatever avenues I need to go in. So that's what it is.
Well, on that, I think we could end right there. That was it in a nutshell. That's Alechia in a nutshell, guys.
Listen, this has been so good.
Yes. Thank you. I knew it would be. I told you, I was like, we need to do a podcast where you just tell us all about you, because I find you fascinating. Thank you for sharing that. And again, I really am grateful. I didn't expect you to be this vulnerable, and to feel like you could really just kind of take off the business author, entrepreneur hat and put on like, hey, I'm a woman with these struggles, and this is how I figured it out. You didn't only present what your problem was, but you also presented the fact that you did and are finding a solution. And I think that's the most powerful thing. So thank you so much for sharing and undoubtedly helping people with this, because it's a big thing that I'm seeing in the entrepreneur community, especially with women, that I think they need to hear. And I think they need to realize that there's another way. So thank you for doing that. That's awesome.
Absolutely. Thank you. Y'all.
Thank you guys for listening. Yes. Thank you guys for listening. Our next few episodes, we're going to be bringing in guests. So hang in there with us. We've been having some technical difficulties, but I think we done figured it out. Okay. So please just hang in there with us, share, subscribe, do all the things, and just keep an ear and an eye out for the next episode. We'll talk to you guys soon.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks so much for listening to this week's episode of Triggered AF. Remember, don't be consumed by your triggers. Confront it and then work to release it. Whether you leave us more triggered than you came, or you're feeling like you've been open to a new perspective, our hope is that you've grown. Make sure to share this episode with a friend who's trigger happy and tag us while you're listening. We can't wait to hear from you. Until next week, pull it together, girl.